I highly recommend Hard Mode, as it adds a whole different dimension to the game. Maybe you've seen the Expeditions trailer as the next in the series to SnowRunner and have thought you'd like to try SnowRunner for the first time. Or maybe you want to test your true skills by doing a run-through in Hard Mode. Well, then this is the guide for you. No workarounds, exploits, or spoilers. Just good things to know so you don't have a bad start and can get the most out of the game. As I said, I highly recommend Hard Mode as it adds that whole different dimension to the game, and the way you approach many of the situations is entirely different between normal and Hard Mode. If you're the kind of person that gets a game and likes to immediately crank the difficulty to hard to really give it a go, then Hard Mode in SnowRunner is the way to go. If you want to get a rundown on the differences between hard and normal mode, then you can check out my prior video to get the full scoop. But I'm here to give you the Hard Mode beginner basics, so let's get started. First, get the Fleet Star immediately. In Hard Mode, you start at your first garage, and sitting right next to the garage entrance trigger is a broken down truck called the Fleet Star. What you have immediately to drive is a Chevy pickup. But what you can do is use this truck and attach your winch to the broken Fleet Star and just drag it over into the garage trigger. Once it's in the garage, go ahead and spend some of your starting cash you have in your account to completely fix it up. This truck is going to wind up being your primary workhorse for a large part of the beginning game, and beyond, so it's worth spending some cash to get it fixed up right away. The second thing you want to do is go on a little scouting run and drive into town to get a second truck that's available to you, the GMC HM9500. I don't want to give away any discovery aspects about the game, so just go left out of the garage and follow the signs to town. The GMC is a terrible vehicle without any upgrades, but it does have one thing that you want, and that is its sideboard bed. Take that GMC back to your garage, take off the frame add-on, that is the sideboard bed, and put it on your Fleet Star. This will save you some cash right at the beginning, and like I said, you're not going to really be using that GMC anytime soon. But I wouldn't sell the GMC either. Later, as you level up and get a couple upgrades for it, it can be a pretty handy second vehicle. So just hang on to the GMC until you're absolutely sure. Next is buy the small crane that attaches right behind the cab of the truck and put that on the Fleet Star. Unlike normal mode, every time you load a piece of cargo, it costs money. You still have the option to automatically load, but at 150 per item loaded, the crane will pay for itself in no time. And there are several missions which really require you to have the crane. Always use the crane to load your cargo, but be a little careful at the loading zones when you pick up your cargo boxes because by default, it's always set to automatic load. So take your time, choose the right loading option, and save yourself a ton of money. Plus, I kind of like using the crane. It adds a lot to the game. Now that you have your Fleet Star kitted out with a loading bed and a crane, you're ready for action and to start tackling the missions. But I wouldn't do just any mission. Mission selection and picking the right ones can make or break your start in Hard Mode. There are some missions which take you into some pretty horrible areas on the map, even on this first starter map of Black River. Do not be lured into an area you can tell is really swampy or muddy. Just wait on those a little while until you get some skill points, level up, and can get some better equipment for your vehicles. I don't have an exact progression for you here with these missions because a lot of that is your personal choice and your own discovery and enjoyment of the game, but do be a little cautious. In Hard Mode, if you have to recover a vehicle that's hopelessly stuck, it'll cost you money. A lot of money. Probably more money than you can afford during the first several hours of the game. So just be careful with what you select. Which leads me to my next beginner's tip. Scout as much of the map as you can with the pickup truck. Now, that bit of advice goes hand in hand with another tip that some may feel as controversial, but I've never regretted it, and it always comes in incredibly handy, and that is to early on invest in a Scout fuel trailer at the trailer store. The trailer itself isn't overly expensive and winds up saving you a lot of time and fuel by not having to constantly go back somewhere to refuel either your Scout or your truck when you're out doing missions. What I suggest you do is pull the fuel trailer behind your Scout as you go out scouting, and this allows you to go on longer, more extended scouting runs without ever having to come back to some central area for more fuel. It also makes you feel like you can drive a little slower and work more carefully, knowing that it's okay to put your vehicle in low gear to burn a little more fuel and take your time, because you can always keep refueling your Scout vehicle. So, in the long run, it saves time, it saves money, and it's safer. Also, visit those watchtowers to get more of the map visible and display the locations of more missions and upgrades on the map. This will help you with that other bit of advice to pick and choose missions which seem best suited for you. Now, before I said I really don't have an exact progression of missions, but I would recommend trying to complete the missions that will build the various bridges across the maps as among your first in priority. It helps open up accessible areas on the map, and it'll give that Scout of yours now with the fuel trailer a much greater ability to roam and discover. Now, about fuel. This is my next tip and a huge piece of advice. To try not to buy any fuel. That's right, you'll see fuel stations, but there are also fuel tankers scattered around the map. The beginning map of Black River has several of these. They're pretty conveniently located, and one of these large fuel trailers is sitting right at a gas station. All you need to do is pull up near the fuel trailer and select it as the source of gasoline and transfer the fuel into your vehicle. This is also the best way to do your initial fill up with that Scout fuel trailer I just talked about. Now, you do want to be just a little bit cautious and not drain all the fuel out of these tankers until they're completely dry. All but one of them is associated with a mission where you have to take that fuel trailer to some location and drop it off. The mission will fail unless it has a minimum of 10% of its fuel left. So don't get greedy. Leave some fuel in there. Which leads me to my next piece of advice, and that one seems to be even a little bit more contradictory to what I said about not providing you an exact mission progression. Do the fuel trailer delivery missions as some of the last. You might even want to start exploring part of the next map in Michigan and come back to Black River and do them later, because you want to use up as much of this free fuel in the trailers as you can without going below 10%. I did a lot of creative siphoning of gas from one trailer to the other to take advantage of this, and it was well worth the time and effort. I roughly estimated that just completing the first 2 maps out of 4 in Michigan would have cost me over $20,000 in fuel alone. So using that free fuel is almost a necessity. A similar bit of advice is about repairs. Never repair at the garage. Now, I started out with my first bit of advice being to take that Fleet Star to the garage and fully repair it. But that's an exception. And the reason is that everything is completely broken down on that truck. So it's almost worthwhile to spend the money to fix it up at the garage, than to use a service trailer and service parts to put it back together. But don't confuse not repairing at the garage with not keeping your vehicles repaired. You get a free and fully stocked service trailer right at your starting garage. Anytime you bring a vehicle back there to do upgrades or anything else, you can use that service trailer and its free parts to fix up your vehicle. You could even use it to fix up the Fleet Star, but the body of that truck is completely wrecked, and I think you'll be a lot happier getting it fully repaired, body and all, inside the garage. This is also another good use for that GMC truck I mentioned at the beginning. You can back it up to the service trailer, hook onto it, and that GMC can then serve as your stationary repair vehicle while at your garage. Damaged engines can start to consume your fuel. Damaged fuel tanks can leak. And just in general, it's a good idea to keep your vehicles fully repaired. But you don't have to repair the body damage, unless it gets to a point where you just can't take it anymore. Body damage can only be repaired inside the garage. But unfortunately, garages are an all-or-nothing deal. The garage charges you the same amount of money to repair 1 point of damage on your vehicle as it does for one that's completely wrecked top to bottom. So for me, I just let the body damage stand as my battle scars in the game, and I have come to almost revere them, like badges of honor. Normal mode is very different and forms entirely different habits. In normal mode, it's very easy to get into a rhythm of going to complete a mission or discover a new watchtower, immediately hit recover to teleport the vehicle back to the garage, hit the repair button in the garage to completely fix it up and refuel it for free, then go on about your next mission. Hard mode requires strategy and planning. You have to get where you're going and make it back. You have to approach things differently, and your punishment for an unwise decision can be a big hit on your bank account. I hope these tips will help you get a good hard mode start in the game. And if you've played hard mode, let me know what you think about it over normal. Until next time, take care, and I'll be talking to you later.